This week, we will mark the 71st anniversary of D-Day, June 6, 1944. That's when 500,000 soldiers stormed the beaches of France to launch the invasion that would soundly defeat Adolf Hitler and Nazi Germany, free a continent, and change the fortunes of the world. Well, this past week, a reenactment of the war's heroics brought together generations in appreciation. At Republic Airport in Farmingdale, vintage fighter aircraft filled the ever-busy runway. Troopers boarded planes bound for bombing runs, even as tanks rolled into forward position. For the crowds enjoying this Memorial Day reenactment, the reality of combat quickly sunk in.
It's very moving to see all the equipment that the veterans used in their service to protect the freedom of the people of the world.
It's like a little piece of history.
Many of those performing these roles are volunteer actors, and they do it for deeply personal reasons.
Well, both of my grandfathers were veterans of the Second World War, and they're not around anymore for me to ask questions.
Stacy Watson of North Belmore says acting out the part of a tank driver allows her to reconnect with her beloved grandparents' bravery. Fellow tank driver and reenactor Steve DeMeo says he can't imagine spending months under fire inside of one of these legendary Sherman tanks.
You live in it, and that's what they did during the war. Lived it and they died in it.
The aerial maneuvers of P-40 and P-47 fighters thrilled everyone, especially the many veterans.
It was an experience that I'll never forget, and proud to have served.
It's amazing just what they did to protect us.
So, a history lesson in the skies over Farmingdale on this sunny yet still somber holiday, paying tribute to those who did not make it safely back home. And joining us now is someone who knows all about D-Day. That's because he was there. He signed up as a teenager, and just barely out of his teens, he stormed the beaches of Normandy. That is 91-year-old Jay Cutler, and welcome to the show, Jay.
Thank you.
And you're a Valley Stream resident. We want to point that out. You know, here we are 71 years ago. What are your thoughts as you think back to that day? What was it like?
It was a pretty awful day. It was nothing you'd like to relive or even watch. I never even watched any of the shows that were about the invasion or the war.
Because you saw it firsthand.
I saw it firsthand, and when Saving Ryan came out, my wife said, "You're not going to go see that."
And you did.
And I didn't.
Well, like I said, because you lived it, you know, no movie can capture that, the drama of that day. I mean, what about, you know, you were part of the crew that was preparing. You were supposed to go the day before, right?
We started out on June 5th, and the weather was so bad that Eisenhower canceled it, and we went back.
And everybody's so worried about keeping it secret because the Germans are trying to figure out where were the Allies going to land.
Yes, we were really frightened because we had this huge armada on the channel waiting to go to thousands of ships, and we thought, how could they not see us and bomb us?
You're right. You were wondering how their patrols weren't able to detect, but they knew they were building up. They just didn't know where they were going to land in France. And then came June 6th when you went, and you knew that was going to be.
Yes.
You know what really struck me about your story, Jay, is that you actually stormed the beaches twice. Explain that.
Well, not actually. I started twice.
Yeah, explain that.
I went down the nets on the LSTs, which crossed us across the channel, got into the Higgins boat, and we started out to go in.
And what's it like as you're going in?
Well, we're kind of numb or whatever. We're just thinking nothing should happen, nothing should happen, nothing should happen.
But there's fire. They're firing on you all over the place.
We were just thinking, be safe. Anyway, the boat's got a leak, and we had to climb back up the nets with these 60-pound packs on our back.
You mean you had to go back to
we had to go back.
different...
We had to go back and wait for another landing boat.
So you had to go through that.
So then we had to go down again.
Terrifying experience of even preparing yourself to go do this that you knew was going to be so terrible.
Yeah.
What is the lesson you draw from that day and that you think generations now should gain? Because I know you've spoken out previously that you don't think that the history of the war is being properly taught to this next generation.
Well, that's what we thought, because there was thought about the regents not requiring history tests, so the teachers wouldn't teach it. And then the story of, it would be all history, even going back to our revolution and the Civil War and World War I. The kids wouldn't even know it existed. It happened. And it's very important that they know the history of our country, everything that transpired to make it what it is.
How do you feel about what you did that day, almost 71 years ago now?
Well, I didn't like being in the Army, but I'm very proud of my service.
And we're very proud of you for it. What have you done with your life since then? Because you've lived many years since then.
Well, I tried a lot of things in the beginning to find my way, and eventually I wound up in a camera store. I started out as sales, but eventually I wound up as a purchasing manager.
Well, there you go. So a story of success of one of the brave soldiers who stormed the beaches of Normandy, not just once, but twice, having to go back and get another boat after the first one started leaking. 91-year-old Jay Cutler, thank you for your great service to our country and for being with us here today as we recall the days when the fate of the world stood in the balance.